On October 29, 1862, some 220 men of the 1st Kansas Colored Volunteer Infantry became the first ever African Americans to engage in combat as Union soldiers during the Civil War. Comprised mostly of freed and escaped slaves, the regiment fought at a place named Island Mound in western Missouri. This is their story, based on first-person historical accounts and stories passed down by a former slave-turned-soldier named George Washington.
It was January 62 when I run. Master Jesse started chaining me up. Said he heard about slaves running for Kansas. Said, now, George, you ain't gonna run rabbit on me, are you? Got to be all I could think about. All I wanted was my freedom. It was waiting for me right over the Missouri. So on that cold day back in '62, I walked right across that ice. I got myself free. That's starting to be a long time ago, James. Going on 30 to 35 years ago, I guess.
What was you gonna do over there? Did you know anybody in Kansas?
Not a soul. You hear about some nice white folks, abolitionists, hated slavery. They might help you if you was lucky. Some of them was crossing over into Missouri, raiding farms, freeing us sometime, just taking us sometime. Some of them even killed slave owners sometime. They burned whole towns. 10 years before the war out east, they fighting each other like that. But them abolitionists helped a whole lot of us get our freedom.
What'd you do when you got across?
Got me a job, good one. Working the riverboat landing in Quindaro. Started hearing about the 1st Kansas around August, I think. They was raised in regiments of Negro soldiers to help fight the Missouri Rebs, bushwhackers. Some of them owners we run away from was sneaking over here, snatching us right out of our freedom back into the Missouri fields. We were nothing but property to them, just like a dog that done run off. But if a colored man joined that Kansas Army, the Army put your name on the line and you put your mark by it. You thought, ain't nobody touch you no more. So I made it to Fort Leavenworth and put my mark by my name. I was a 1st Kansas Colored Volunteer soldier. Long way from them shackles and rags. Was so young then. Young and damn proud. I wasn't somebody's property no more. I was a soldier. A free man. Good as any other. Next 2 months, we drilled and marched. Then come in October '62. They sent some 200 of us brand new 1st Kansas volunteers marching out of Fort Lincoln back into Missouri. 20 miles back over that border into the open prairie. Bushwhackers was making trouble up in Bates County up by Butler, and we was sent to stop them. We ain't been free men but a few months, and most of us ain't never held a gun before we joined up. Ain't nobody ever seen a colored man wearing blue with a rifle on his shoulder before neither. Not too many white folks anywhere cared to see us being soldiers. But we was ready to fight for Old Glory, no matter what they was saying about us. All I could think about was them bushwhackers being out there somewhere. They was all camped out on this big swamp island. Hundreds of them we heard. Called it Hog Island, right in the middle of the river. By the time we got within sight of the Toothman farm where we was camped, we seen a few of them bushwhackers. Scouts rolled up to check them out. We all knew they was trouble. You could just feel it. They were stirring up trouble all around the border, burning houses, shooting folks friendly with the Union. Them Rebs hated the Union. They wanted Missouri to join in the South and be Confederate. Some were slave owners looking for us, but now we was marching to find them. So we kept on for that farm. I expect them Toothman ladies' hearts about stopped when they seen us come up. That whole family was Rebs. Younger boy was in prison back in Fort Lincoln for fighting with him. An army of colored Union soldiers. Only colored man they ever saw maybe was a slave. And we was gonna take over that house. Now the captain, he starts asking all kind of questions about the bushwhackers. Where they was and how many of them. Well, my blood about turned to ice when that lady said there'd be 700 rebel horsemen out there on Hog Island. Just a couple of miles over them hills. Didn't sound real good to us right then. But we set about to taking that house and making it our fort. Whole time I be thinking, maybe she just lying. Trying to scare us off or something. Ain't no 700 horsemen out there, shoot. But some other folks around there said the same thing. We knew we was outnumbered bad. Ain't no doubt over that. We raised the flag out front and let them Rebs know this was a Union camp of free men. Started calling it Fort Africa. Fort Africa. Not too many white folks at the time thought we could walk in a line or shoot a gun when we was ordered. Thought we'd just run off in the heat of the battle. But we was young, and we had something to prove.
Were y'all scared about them Rebs out there?
Sure we was. Be a fool not to be. I think that first night it started sinking in. We didn't know what we was in for, but we knew we was there for a fight. We was feeling that. We never seen no war before. We just got our freedom, earned it hard, and we was gonna risk everything. We was fighting for the Union and against slavery. They told us them Rebs ain't gonna take no prisoners. And you sure didn't want to be taken back to your master after running and taking up arms. We knew we was outnumbered by whatever was lurking out there. We knew we could die. But we was never going back into slavery.
Did the Rebs come after you?
That second morning we was there, that's when things turned. Scouts rolled out again first thing, but this time, they seen a whole bunch more of them, hanging like hornets on a nest. When word gets back to them officers, things started really moving. Now the captain, he knows we short on food, but he also know them bushwhackers ain't gonna like no Negro soldiers all about hunting for it. So he sends out a big forage party to gather whatever food they could find and bring it back. Then they send some of us sharpshooters toward them Rebs to keep them occupied in the meantime. You could feel in your blood something was about to happen. We was in for a fight. Rebs yelling, picking up, especially toward our officers. Them revolvers wasn't much of a match at 300 yards. But we showed them Rebs something they never expected. We chased them a couple of more miles back, emptied a few more saddles on the way. I think they might have took us a little more serious after that. So after we started back for camp, They was moving up behind, setting fires along the way, hiding in the smoke. Time we took lunch that afternoon at Fort Africa, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. There was so much smoke. We was getting real nervous again, especially the captain. So he sends this Cherokee scout named John Sixkiller and some other men that was his slaves before they joined up. He sends them out there to see what's brewing. Started hearing shooting, so Captain sends us out, Company F, to bring them back in. After we met up with them, we was already a couple of miles out from camp. None of us liked being out in the middle of that open prairie right then. We felt like we was being watched. Like there's eyes on you, out in the trees, watching your every step. Then we heard them. They was coming for us with all of hell's fire and fury. All I could think of was getting over the top of that hill. Thought maybe our boys would be over the other side, might save us. Next thing I heard, I can still hear clear to this day. Lieutenant yells out, "Halt!" Form ranks. Aim. And your whole life comes down to that moment. Staring you in the face, seeing it in the eyes of them men coming over that hill. Fire! We lost some good men right then and there. Right next to you 1 minute, then gone the next. Lieutenant Gardner, he'd been shot twice and was crawling for his life, just trying to get away. But them bushwhackers, they sure had it out for them officers. They hated him worse than us, maybe. Done Captain Crew the same way. Shot him and he just kept getting up. Finally shot him dead. But we took care of our own. Guess that man that shot the lieutenant never got to find out he didn't kill him. Old Gardner managed to stay alive. You was lucky to get more than one shot off. Sitting ducks out there with them rifles. Horses all about, men shouting. Smoke and flame all around. Had to use your bare hands to fight. Bayonets, anything you could find. Wasn't sure whether the blood was theirs or mine. We was all over them. Once we pulled off them horses. They shot Sergeant Lowry. Told him just give it up. He answered that rib. They kept coming at him, one after the next. And he just kept fighting. Captain brought up some men to cut them off. Sent them back over that mountain and back to the river. And they finally had enough. It was done. More than 100 Rebs come over that hill, but we stood our ground. White folks said the colored man wouldn't fight. They was wrong. 'Cause that fight was just the beginning for us. We lost 8 good men that day. Another 11 fell wounded. We fought like tigers. That's what they said about us. We just wanted to live and be free. Private Dobson, just 14 years old. Reb shot him in both arms. Told Captain Earl he didn't kill but one of them. But at least he brought his rifle back. Real proud boy. They say President Lincoln was thinking of us. What we done that day at Island Mound when he signed the Emancipation Proclamation and when he let colored men in the Army, when he let us fight in that war. We may even have helped win it. A lot of them boys in the 1st Kansas wouldn't live to see the end of that war. But something sure changed that day at Island Mound. We showed who we was. Showed we was worth something. We was men. We was free. And we was never going back.
My great-grandfather, George Washington, was there. He was a slave born in Rappahannock County, Virginia, and he was given as a wedding present by his slave master one afternoon with slaves escaping left and right. The master came up to George Washington and said, "George, you know, I've treated you like a son over these years, but I don't want you to run away. I'm going to chain you up in the root cellar." And George couldn't understand that. On one cold evening, a few slaves from other farms got together, followed a creek, a natural spring creek, down to the Missouri River under the cloak of darkness. And lo and behold, the Missouri River was frozen, no riverboat traffic. And according to my grandmother, they walked to freedom across the Missouri River, just like Jesus did. Well, George became a soldier. He was taught to fight. He even got paid. $9, $10 a month. The white troops were making 13. Out of that $9 or $10, he had to buy his own rifle and buy his own uniform. It was a one-shot deal.
Joseph is my great-great-great-grandfather. He was essentially switched on to being an abolitionist. He grew up Quaker. He's made a lieutenant. He's put in charge of Company F. Really, within the first 5 minutes of the battle, he was pretty much out of the picture. He was down on the ground. He had wounds in his thigh and his knee, buckshot wounds. He said, "I'm going to blow your head off." And either he had bad ammunition or his thick skull saved the day, and he just has a horrible wound from it, and he survived.
My great-great-grandfather, Corporal Rufus Vann, he was not a slave when he joined. He had already been freed by his slave owner, Katie Williams. We had free persons of color that fought in the Civil War, and they were very proud of that uniform. Those soldiers, when they got their uniforms, how they would shine their buttons and polish and how they would fold them, they were very proud of that uniform.
I think if it had not been for the sacrifices and efforts of folk like the 1st Kansas Colored, I wouldn't be a general.